Well, hello, community group Shepherd leaders. Pastor Ricky here. I know that it's been a while since I have sent you a video community group update. And so this one might be a little bit longer than 3 minutes, but there are three things that I really need to communicate to you before the end of the year. So thank you for taking some time for watching this video update. Well, the first thing I want to communicate is that we need to have another Shepherd huddle. One of the things that Pastor Bob communicated at our last members meeting is that I will be taking a 3-week sabbatical in January to help me transition into my new role as lead pastor. That sabbatical is going to start on January 7th, and I want to be able to huddle with you all before I leave for that sabbatical. So I want us to huddle briefly on Sunday, January 6th. Now, this is not going to be our typical hour-long Shepherd huddles where you fill out member pursuit reports. We break out into our clusters. It's going to be a briefer huddle. We're going to stay as a large group the entire time. We're only going to be there for 30 minutes. So January 6th for 30 minutes. The times will start at the same time. 8:15 groups will huddle after the first service, 11 to 11:30. All other groups are going to huddle after the second service, 12:30 to 1. Because we're only huddling for 30 minutes, I will not be providing lunch for this huddle, but we will offer childcare if you need it. So if you do need that, please make Karen aware of that at least by the Wednesday prior to those huddles on January 6th. It's going to be an opportunity for us to just touch base on a couple of things as it relates to community group ministry moving forward. A few things I want to communicate to you, and I'll also give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have of me as it relates to community group ministry moving forward. So put that on your schedule. Shepherd Huddles, January 6th at either 11 o'clock or 12:30, depending upon which community group hour you are in. The second thing I wanted to communicate to you was that community group announcements are going to look differently starting in January. There's still going to be a single document in your room for you to use for community group announcements. But starting in January, that document's going to look different. It's going to include more than what you need to actually communicate to your community group. This is one of the things that we're going to be talking about during our January 6th Shepherd Huddles. I'll go into explaining why we're doing it this way and how else we're going to be using this document. But I wanted to give you a heads up because you're going to see that Sunday morning the 6th before we actually get to talk about it in the Shepherd Huddles after service, all right? So when you see that on the 6th, it's going to look different. There will be a list of events and services and different ministries that are going to be taking place in the month of January. Those are events that you can share with your community group, particularly those events that relate to members within your community group, all right? But we'll come back at our Shepherd Huddles after the service and talk about exactly what that document's all about, the other pieces that are on that document, how we're going to use it in our church, and how that relates to community group announcements moving forward. But be aware that's going to look a little bit different when you show up for your community group on January 6th. Well, the third and final thing that I wanted to communicate to you all relates to another change that you and our people are going to notice going into next year, and that is starting in 2019, we're no longer going to provide donuts at our coffee bar for our entire church family on a weekly basis. The reason for that is simple. We needed to lower our expenses in 2019 about $100,000 versus what we were spending in 2018. And anytime you are cutting a budget by that much, it really forces you to ask some questions as it relates to what's most important to us as a church. And we were faced with questions like, what's most important to us? Items as it relates to ministry or missional support, or things like donuts. For us, it was a no-brainer. When forced to choose between things like donuts, which are, of course, nice to have, but are non-essential as it pertains to the Great Commission, we decided that what was more important was to maintain what we're doing in terms of ministry and missions, and to make cuts in other places like donuts. All right. I know people are going to be wondering about that. Wanted you to be aware that that change is coming. That's why it's coming. In case it comes up in your community group, you can help people to understand that we had to make cuts somewhere. We didn't want to touch ministry and missions, and so things like donuts were things that we probably need to scale back on. I also communicate that to you because we are perfectly okay for you as community groups to provide donuts for your people. All right, people can still have donuts on Sunday mornings as community groups want to provide that for those within their group. We're simply not going to start. We're simply not going to continue to provide it for the entire church at the coffee bar. If you do provide donuts for your community group, please remember to clean up after yourself afterwards, so that the group coming in behind you doesn't have to do that. But please be aware that's a change that I know our people will notice going into next year. Wanted you to know that that change is coming and why it was made. Well, brothers and sisters, thank you so much again for all that you do for our church. I really look forward to connecting with you on January 6th and being able to just share a few things. And it's just been a while since we've been able to connect. So I look forward to that. Make sure that that's on your calendar. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out. Thank you so much and have a Merry Christmas.